looking at today on a Class 1 dam located in Duluth, Georgia. SCA was contacted by the association after an engineering report was brought to the attention of the board members, bringing up some of the concerns around the structure. Now, as a whole, every dam, earthen dam specifically in this case, is going to be a little bit different depending on lake size, watershed, stuff like that. But as a whole, these maintenance items are things that you can look for at home to make sure that what you have isn't going to be out of compliance, or at least to get ahead of the situation. So let's take a look in the sky and see what we've got. The main things we're going to be looking at today are the principal spillway, which in this case is a siphon system, where there were problems spotted at both the outlet head wall and the siphon appurtenances. To the left, we'll be looking at the auxiliary spillway and also the toe of the dam. One thing I do want to mention before we get into it is the essential aspect of keeping the dam free and clear of large diameter trees and scrub brush as well. But the issue that comes with having large diameter trees, they present a huge safety risk if they were to be blown over by the wind and the root ball were to rip large sections out of the dam, especially on the water side or on the crest of the dam at the very top. And so this specific community has done an exceptional job of keeping it mowed with the same grass that they have in the rest of the HOA and keeping it in a way that the community can enjoy it. That's a win-win in all areas, but that's not very common, and it's also a little bit more expensive in the long run. But if you can do that, that's fantastic, but for the majority, just keep it trimmed as low as you can and regularly brush cut to make sure that saplings don't turn into a big issue and a more expensive fix later down the road. Here we can see the siphon appurtenances. Now, the actual siphon that sucks water out of the lake extends much farther beyond this location. However, these systems are what interacts with the water flow to ensure that the right amount of water is coming out of the lake depending on the water level in rain events. There's a couple things to look at here. First off, the fence in that corner is a little bit damaged, and so we have to make sure that gets rectified to make sure that unauthorized personnel can't get in and accidentally tamper with the system. Also, there's a little bit of vegetation that's grown in and around the siphon appurtenances that could cause issues down the road if the roots were to get too big or they were to get ripped out, or in a maintenance issue where they were being pulled out, cut down. It's just too much risk to be damaging such an important piece of the system. So we'll get those taken out, removed, and make sure this area is easy to access and secure from unauthorized personnel. One thing that may not seem like a big deal is actually the depression you can see on the dam itself above the fence. Now, most of the time this isn't an issue, but we always want to inspect, fill it back in, and make sure that this isn't a sinkhole, or worse, something that's a leak in the actual piping system where it's sucking soil through the system and could cause a larger problem down the road. So we always want to make sure when we see stuff like this to fill it back in, reseed it, and make sure that it's not going to be an issue long term. Heading over to the auxiliary spillway, this is the system in place in which if the principal spillway gets overwhelmed or isn't functioning properly, water can still safely exit over the dam in this area, which in this case is a very widely grassed swale that's a little bit lower than the elevation of the rest of the crest. And so we've gotten reports that there's a little bit of washout or erosion at the very bottom of this, actually inside the woods line, which we don't have footage of today, but after inspection wasn't super concerning, but we do need to make sure that it gets filled in and covered with a little bit of riprap, just in case if this spillway is activated in the future, it's not going to cause a big washout and possibly even worse, come back up to the dam and cause a major blowout. Again, it didn't seem very concerning, but something we definitely want to keep in mind. Now we're going to head over the crest, down the bank to the toe of the dam where you can see the outlet head wall. If you look closely, you can see the different siphons that make up the principal spillway as a whole. Under normal conditions, like we're viewing today, you can see only one or two of them are activated at the same time. Under a heavy rain event, all of these siphons, or a portion of them, will be activated under a pretty heavy action. There's a couple things to take a look at here. First, we'll take a look at the overgrown vegetation that's in the riprap and on the sides of the stream channel. This must be removed for proper access and to make sure there's no blockages. Secondly, you can't really see it in the video, but there's actually some animal holes that have burrowed in around the head wall that need to be packed in and filled in to make sure it doesn't cause a bigger washout in the future. Also, there appears to be a little bit of washout underneath the concrete apron. Now, this isn't too big of an issue right now, but we want to make sure that it doesn't wash out enough to where it could possibly break off a section of the concrete apron. What we would do is typically either fill in, grout, or put additional rock in this area to make sure that the erosion doesn't progress farther. Finally, we're going to take a look at the toe of the dam. This is the area where the bank of the dam meets the bottom of the hill, and it needs to be kept clear of at least 10 to 20 feet of vegetation from growing. Again, going back to our earlier conversation, we want to ensure there's no large diameter trees that can be possibly ripped off the steep sections of the bank if there was a large wind event, and especially if that, in combination with a large rain event, could cause a washout or even worse, a total blowout. In this case, this community is doing a good job, but there is a little bit of brush cutting and tree removal that needs to be done along the sides of the toe of the dam to make sure that we're going to be in compliance with local regulations.